Today, we're going to dive into something that really does feel like it's straight out of a movie, but it's happening right now. Artificial intelligence on the battlefield. The thing is, it's not changing warfare in the way most of us probably think. It's already here, and it's forcing us to ask some huge questions. So when you hear AI and military in the same sentence, I'm guessing an image kind of like this pops into your head, right? The classic Terminator-style killer robot. It's a really dramatic and, let's be honest, pretty terrifying vision that takes up a lot of the oxygen in this conversation.
But the biggest changes aren't coming from those big cinematic scenarios. No, they're happening in much quieter, more subtle ways. We're talking about these small shifts in how military decisions get made, all shaped by AI systems that are already being used for things like logistics, crunching intelligence data, and detecting threats.
So to really get a handle on what's going on, we need to look past the killer robots and ask four really important questions. We're going to talk about the illusion of control, this new kind of distance AI creates, a massive gap in accountability, and this kind of unsettling idea that AI might actually make war too easy.
Okay, so let's jump right into that first question. It's all about a phrase you hear thrown around all the time in this debate, keeping a human in the loop.
Now, on the surface, this sounds like the perfect answer, doesn't it? A person always has to press the final button, so a human is always in control, acting as that last moral backstop. But is it really that simple? Well, this is where we see the gap between the promise and what actually happens in our own brains. Psychologists call it automation bias. It's our natural human tendency to just trust what a computer tells us. I mean, think about it. If an AI analyzes mountains of data and then recommends 3 possible targets, the person isn't really choosing from the whole picture anymore, are they? They're just picking from a pre-approved list.
And that's the core of it, right? When you are under incredible pressure and the machine is feeding you answers with, say, a 98% confidence score, how much mental space do you really have to push back? Real responsibility isn't just about being present. It's about having the time and the ability to truly think and disagree. Otherwise, that whole human-in-the-loop thing just becomes a rubber stamp.
All right, let's move on to our second question. This is all about how this technology is creating a whole new kind of distance in warfare, adding another layer to a really long history.
You know, technology has always created distance. Long-range weapons gave us physical distance. Then came drones, flown from thousands of miles away, which created geographic distance. But AI? It introduces something new, something more abstract, cognitive distance. It basically puts a buffer between the decision maker and the real human consequences of that decision.
This quote really just nails it. An AI takes the messy, confusing, human reality of a conflict zone and, well, it cleans it up. It turns it into neat, organized data. People and places become patterns, probabilities, and variables. And when that happens, the human cost starts to just fade into the background.
I mean, if you're just looking at a dashboard or a heat map or a ranked list of potential threats, the choice can feel more like you're solving a math problem than making a life-or-death decision. That natural emotional friction, that gut feeling that makes you hesitate, it can start to wear away. And that feeling of distance leads us straight into our third point, which might just be one of the trickiest legal and ethical knots to untangle. When something goes wrong, who's to blame?
Usually in military operations, you have a traceable chain of command. It can be complicated for sure, but you can follow the line from a decision to an action all the way to the outcome. Responsibility has somewhere to land.
But an AI just throws a huge wrench in that. See, a lot of these advanced systems are what we call black boxes. They give us an answer, but we can't actually see how they got there. Sometimes even the people who design the system can't fully explain its internal logic. So where exactly does a system like that fit into a chain of command? This creates what people are calling a massive responsibility gap. If an AI-powered system makes a horrible mistake, who is at fault? Is it the operator who listened to the recommendation? The commander who decided to use the system in the first place? What about the engineers who wrote the code, or the people who supplied the data it was trained on? When you spread responsibility that thin, it can pretty much disappear altogether. And all of this brings us to our last and maybe the most counterintuitive question of all. What if the biggest risk of AI isn't that it makes war more brutal, but that it makes it seem more doable?
Okay, so the big selling point for AI is efficiency, right? It promises to lower the financial costs of military operations, and this is a big one, reduce the risk to your own soldiers. And look, on paper, that sounds fantastic. Who wouldn't want military action to be safer and more precise?
But here's the catch. History kind of shows us that when a tool gets easier to use, it gets used more often. So if AI lowers the political and human costs of going to war, if it removes all that friction, does it also lower the bar for leaders to decide to use military force in the first place? Does war become just another tool in the toolbox, a more routine option?
So, when you pull it all together, you realize the main challenge here isn't really about the tech. The machines are going to get more capable. That's a given. The real question is about us.
We have to make sure that our ability to think through the moral consequences keeps up with the incredible pace of our own innovation. We have to build real guardrails that ensure things like human oversight and accountability aren't just buzzwords, but are actually at the core of how these systems are designed and used.
At the end of the day, that's really the choice we're facing. As we build these incredibly powerful, incredibly efficient systems, are we also building the wisdom and the rules to make sure they're used responsibly? That's the question we all need to start asking.